Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Squared Circle Maniacs Pro Wrestling Podcast. What are you looking for?
Any of these neckbeards come screaming out of the closet to yell at me for what we're about to say.
They'll swing in on ropes and kick your windows in.
Oh, no, man.
Tonight on a very special edition of the Pro Wrestling Podcast, courtesy of the Squared Circle Maniacs, we have a review of women's wrestling.
Well, an overview.
We're looking at the women's wrestling scene right now. In the big two, WWE and AEW. TNA we haven't delved into. Overseas in Japan, it's a whole nother thing. Those women hit harder.
Johnny? You know why we don't watch TNA? Because no one else does either.
That's a hell of a point, Don.
I mean,
my name is Johnny Bottles. My name is Johnny Bottles, as you can see from right there. And over here to my right tonight, Dr. Don Wayne, the neckbeard psychiatrist, from not from YouTube, for God's sakes, what am I saying?
Oh, God.
How many times do I say this every week? The neckbeard psychologist from Twitter. You may know him by some of his greatest hits, such as, women's wrestling really does suck. Quit jerking off to anime. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get started, I want to send a very special shout out, though, to a guy that without him, we wouldn't have an opening theme song. Without him, we wouldn't know how this whole thing works. He was very
Coach Troy Taylor.
Stop, dude. Stop. Mike Digital, I want to say thank you, pal. You the opening theme song. It's his music. He's got his own YouTube page. If you get a chance, go check him out. He's got some cool videos. He checks out Abandoned Spaces, man. It's really awesome. The guy's really cool. He's been really good to us. Mike Digital. He helped us get started, gave us the music. We said we need an opening tune. He said, I got you. And he said,
when all of our other videos were hijacked by the place that we came from, we didn't have access to them anymore. Mike Digital helped us out to gain access to those videos. He's a man among men, and God bless you, Mikey. You're a good man, sir.
Appreciate it. So let's get into it, because I know
Block Larry
is way
Block Larry will make you proud. We'll make you proud, Larry.
It's one of his favorite topics of all time. He adores the women's wrestling. Just kidding. If you haven't been here long, it's one of the things he can't stand, and he's got a good reason for it. Women's wrestling in the past, probably, what would you say, 10 years, has not only taken a hold, and I mean a really firm hold in wrestling, it's moved into the limelight. It's moved into WrestleMania moments. It's moved into areas of wrestling that you never once thought possible. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of women's wrestling. As we all know, if you ever watch this show, it is not my thing for the most part, and that's what this show is about, is that it's just not good most of the time, and that's why the rest of the product suffers. There was a time in the early 2000s, late 90s, there was a woman named Lita, right? She was the first female wrestler I saw that really got my attention. Really made me go, damn, man, that's really crazy. Women can do this stuff? And then I got hit with the real harsh reality, because she had an opponent back then, Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus had both the look. She was a very attractive young lady, and she could also go a little bit in the ring. Now, she wasn't doing anything crazy like Trish was, but she could absolutely do moves that would make you say, take a moment and say, okay, that's pretty good. You know, she sold that. She did well. And then the reality hit in that they just started hiring girls because of their looks and not what they could do in the ring. And that wasn't just in the WWE. This was pervasive across the entire industry for about 10, 15 years. That's why they started hiring. They even called them divas, for God's sakes, in one company.
Even in their precious ECW, you had Francine, who didn't wrestle. You had Beulah McGillicuddy, who did not wrestle. And you had Kimona Wanalea. Oh, and you also had Dawn Marie. They were all valets. But being there a while, they all got active in the ring, doing a little piece of business here and there. A lot of bra and panties matches, swimsuit matches they would have, mud wrestling, things of that nature. Things like that sully actual women's wrestling for women that know how to wrestle, such as Stratus, and Lita. Lita made her way through Mexico to get trained. She went down there to learn how to be a luchador.
Yeah, she learned lucha. Yeah, that's why it stuck out so much, because she did all the high-flying lucha stuff. It was super impressive. It was super amazing. She stuck out in an industry covered with panty matches and bra and panty matches and mud matches. It was a complete sham. Right. It was Vince's wet dream before he actually started doing what we found out later that he's been accused of doing. Right? So I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole different topic. We've covered that in depth. Of course. A couple episodes. Check the archives. You'll enjoy it. Like and subscribe if you have not already. We appreciate it.
A lot of mud wrestling. He loved the mud wrestling.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Oh, you bastard.
You walked right into that, pal.
I really did.
I opened a door and you strolled right in. It was perfect.
But the problem that we have today in women's wrestling that I can tell is there's too many women having too many bad matches that are diluting a product that I would probably enjoy if it was not overindulgent on my TV every week and every waking moment and being force-fed down my throat every time I switch on either one of the products that I watch. It's prevalent every time, and it's
now.
Not
let me ask you this, Don: is it indicative of one company or spread across the wrestling landscape?
It's across the whole landscape, in my opinion. One company has got what I would say is a fair. I've got the numbers here, right? I went ahead and I ran these numbers, and I said I'm going to go into each roster of the two main companies in this country, AEW and WWE. And I said I'm going to see how many women are in each roster, how many I personally know and would keep on the main roster and keep them on shows. Now on WWE, it's a little bit different because they have that third roster made up of women in NXT. NXT, as you know, are people that are learning to wrestle in front of people, that are learning to wrestle on television, that are learning to wrestle and go about the business of being a professional wrestler. I said wrestling way too many times. I feel like Hulk Hogan saying brother right now. But there were 72
grappling. Say grappling.
Okay. There were 72 female grapplers on the WWE roster. 72. Yes. I counted it twice to make sure. Now, some of them might be valets. I don't know on NXT. Some of them might count as valets. But there were 72 talents listed on their website. I'm going to run down what I thought were names that I knew as a fan that doesn't particularly care for this genre of wrestling.
Sure.
And I'd like to know your thoughts after I name them. Asuka, Tiffany Stratton, Bayley, Valhalla, Becky Lynch, Zoe Stark, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Natalya, Nikki Cross. Yes, I do like Nikki Cross. I think there's something there. She hits hard. Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, and Shayna Baszler. That's all I need. That's plenty right there. And you don't need two titles. You need a title. And I know I'm probably leaving a whole lot of folks' favorite wrestlers off. These are the ones that when I watch TV, my wife doesn't go, please change this. Even my wife can't stand the small, timid women that hit the ropes and it barely moves. It's like a rubber band, just ding, ding. They just don't have the size to hit the ropes and make an impactful move and to keep the momentum going. And I lose the disbelief of the match.
That's a solid lineup that's a solid lineup you mentioned.
You could run two shows off of that, I think, in my opinion. And yes, I said Charlotte Flair, for anybody who didn't hear me. I'll run through this list one more time. Asuka, Tiffany Stratton, Bayley, Valhalla, Becky Lynch, Zoe Stark, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Natalya, Nikki Cross, Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, and Shayna Baszler.
Raquel Rodriguez.
You can have. Well, she's the only Rodriguez I know in the company that I know. Right. That's why I just put it like that.
She's got a good look because she's the biggest girl there, outside of Nia Jax, of course. So Nia Jax was conspicuous by her absence on that, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, I don't have her on here. I don't have any need for Nia Jax to be coming into the ring anytime soon. I've seen her wrestle enough. It's not because she doesn't have a look. She's a big girl, but she's no Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong was a wrestler in the mid-2000s that could legitimately go for a big girl. She was amazing. I love
Awesome Kong was the Terry Gordy of the women in TNA Impact. She was a big person who could throw herself around the ring, and she was light on her feet. He froze up on me, Don. There you go.
When I see these women in a match, and believe me, we talked about this a bit last night. Most of these girls can have a good match, right? But when you saw this week on Raw, when you had Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley in the ring, there was just something missing to me. It didn't look right. It didn't sound right. It didn't feel right. Sometimes they just don't match, and that's no different than a men's match. Sometimes it just doesn't click. I think back to the Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the SummerSlam match in like 98, I think it was the Highway to Hell, or maybe it was 99. It was not a good match. For whatever reason, it didn't click that night. But I'd seen those guys wrestle live before, and they tore the house down. Just sometimes it doesn't happen. And for whatever reason, this isn't clicking. But that roster of women, you can run 2 shows with that, Johnny, and they don't have to have 8 segments a night. Give them 2.
Dude, you didn't even mention NXT, because you've got some women in NXT that can go. You've got Lyra Valkyria, who was a British champ for years in Great Britain, who can go. You've got what's her name? Good Lord, I'm blanking out here.
Thank you, Scott, for the $10 donation.
Thanks,
Thank you, Black Larry, for the $20. We appreciate it, fellas.
We appreciate it. What the hell is her name? She's the chick that was hooked up with Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen. I forgot her name now, but she deserves to be on the main roster. She's fantastic.
I don't know them, Johnny. Like, that's what I'm saying. Keep them in the NXT level until they're ready to come up, and then I'll take a look at them. But they're there for a reason. They're just not ready for this yet, right? They're not. This is my roster, man. When I see them wrestle, most of the time they usually have a good match. It took me a while for Bianca Belair to really rub off on me, because I hate the skippy doodop shit all the way to the ring. That drives me crazy when you have a skipping woman going to the ring. The one person that worked for was AJ Lee, because she looked like a psychopath, and she pulled it off tremendously. And she was a smaller
schoolgirl.
Yes, but she was a smaller woman, if you remember. She was a smaller lady, but she looked like a nut job coming to the ring every time. And you're like, that chick is legit, might be nuts, man. This is pretty cool.
Absolutely. You've got enough women there to, like you said, to run 2 shows. That's no problem there at all. Even Valhalla, who doesn't have a chance to show off what she's got.
Right.
Valhalla can go. Did you have Liv Morgan on that list?
No, I did not.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
She's a pretty girl. I have no problem with her being a valet, which is something that I feel is missing in wrestling today, is having valets. There is a place in wrestling for valets. What's his name has got one right now. Nobody knows his name, but everybody spots that chick immediately, and he's a star because of her.
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross, yes, with Scarlett. We talked about this either last week, I think it was. Sable came to the ring with Mark Merrow. Nobody gave a shit who Mark Merrow was. Who's that Sable chick? Do something with her. She's wasting her time with that guy.
Exactly right. Exactly.
So that's sort of where my mindset is on WWE. You can have 2 rosters with this, right? And the ones that you like, you can like them. I don't care. Like, if they do something for you. But to me, the numbers don't lie, Johnny. You can look at any of the statistics, any of the viewership ratings, any of the actual viewerships on social media. People don't tend to gravitate towards most of the women wrestling right now. They don't gravitate towards that product, right? They just don't.
Do you think that the management is doing them a disservice by having too many there?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's the thing, is that they're elevating so many to try to keep a product relevant that they feel like they have to do to create a fair and balanced women's act with the men. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be the talent should just get over and be able to get over on its own without having to take up the show. If you can't get over, why are you here? Look, case in point, Becky Lynch, when she became the man, it didn't take long for that to catch on. It didn't take. She was red hot as soon as she started that gimmick. From the time she came on the WWE main roster, there was something about her and the way that she acted that caught your eye, right?
Then when she got wrapped in the face with that, it was before Survivor Series. I think WWE Raw invaded SmackDown, and she got an elbow in the face from Nia Jax, and it broke her nose. And she bled out on national television. And she stood there with a kendo stick in the crowd, and everybody was cheering her.
And it was
because even though she got popped in the face, she was still whacking people with the kendo stick. She recovered right away.
Right.
So,
and
after that, she became the man.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, she had that moment where you're like, that's a bad chick, man. Like, that was pretty cool.
Right.
That was a cool moment. I'm going to dig on that. I like that. I don't know why WWE has refused to acknowledge that some of these women should just be valets. They should just be there to be seen. And that's
Chelsea
fine.
Green. Case in point, Chelsea Green can talk. She's got the character of a Karen and runs her mouth better than anybody there and any of the women. Have her be a valet. She always eats the pin in whatever tag team match she's in or any singles match. So that's somebody who should be a manager for somebody.
Right. And like I said, that with that roster, you can have 2 really good matches on each show,
Sure.
right? That's 4 matches. That can be anywhere from 4 to 8 women, depending on how you do this. The other thing is there's too many damn titles in the women's division. We don't need a women's tag team championship. We don't need it. The one that's going on right now with Asuka, that's the first one that's made any sense since they've actually had this damn thing out there. Mm-hmm. To me, they're the only tag team champions that have actually mattered since that belt's been invented. And by the way, that thing is cursed. How many people have gotten hurt holding that damn thing?
You're exactly right. And that tag team championship, the women's tag team champions, stretch across 3 shows. NXT, SmackDown, and Raw, as opposed to the men's tag champs just stretch across 2. So,
well, that's a shitty topic for another day because the men's tag team division in WWE is a god-awful mess right now. Triple H has got to do something about that, but that's a discussion for another time. So that's the WWE roster I discussed. Right. Is there anybody you would have added to this that I did not mention that's not in NXT? Because I thought it was a pretty good list, man. Like, you can have some good matches with these women.
Dude, I can't make a case. I can't make a case for Io Sky. I can't. Because she can't promo. Either. She can't talk. The matches are great, but
I don't even like her matches. I don't like her matches because of how small she is. That's just me.
It's not realistic for you.
Yeah, it's just not. I can't buy a 90-pound person, man or female, flying through the air and doing anything. Like, I just can't see that. And I almost put Dewdrop on the list because she is a big girl, but I feel like sometimes her matches get a little sloppy because she looks like she gets really winded. And it's probably because she's such a big girl.
She's a big girl. She's too big, I think, but
that's my WWE roster. In AEW, right? Buddy Rowe. Oh my God. Holy hell.
These. I've got them up right now. Let me take a look at these.
I counted 38 women on this roster. And when I counted 38, I was like, there's no way that there's actually 38 women on this. There's not a chance that this has ever happened. Ever, ever, ever. 38 women, the majority of which I've never seen or heard of, and the amount of women I would keep on this roster is significantly smaller than the one that I just said, right? Because these are the 2 main companies in the world competing right now. Talking about actual wrestlers. What'd you get? You're still counting.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, 2,
anyway.
3.
Let's just go with 38 models.
They got 42 women signed.
Right, but I believe 38 are actual wrestlers.
No, they're all wrestlers, but there are some that are inactive or injured, like Rebel, who will come out with Britt Baker, who's also injured. Jamie Hayter's injured. Emmy Sakura's supposedly injured. Layla Gray's injured. Madison Rain's injured. Rita Shafir's injured. Paige Van Zant wrestled 1 match, the MMA girl. Then she turned to OnlyFans.
I've
still got a contract.
Yes. Okay. Here's my roster of the AEW faction that I would actually keep.
Snooki Parazzo.
Please stop. Just stop. Tony Storm, Statlander, Ruby Soho, Willow, and probably Britt Baker. That's all I got.
That's interesting.
That's all I got, pal, because the rest of them I saw on this past night, on Wednesday night, when they had some of their quote-unquote best girls out there. Bro, that ain't it. I put Willow on here a little bit unwillingly because she literally stuck her head through the rope at one point in that match just to get kicked. It was not good. And I'm only doing these 2 rosters, right? Because I'm not going to waste my time watching a show that only has 70,000 people watching. It's just not worth my time. And you can tell me, I don't care. I'm watching AEW and I'm watching WWE and that's it, right? I don't care if you tell me that the wrestling on Stardom or New Japan or whatever the hell is better. No one else is watching it either. There's a reason that they're not making millions of dollars. You've convinced yourself that it's a good product, and that's fine. It's not a good product. It's just not. And you can come at me and say all you want to. Those are the women that I've seen that can actually entertain me and do something. Is there anybody else on this show you would have put in here?
I would have kept Mariah May. Mariah May is a great wrestler. She wrestled in Japan exclusively for years.
If she walked in my house right now and said I'm Mariah May, I wouldn't know her.
You wouldn't know her. Mariah May is a hard hitter. In the matches, the little bit of matches I've seen in AEW, she impressed me. But they just have her being a valet for Toni Storm. The girl that comes out with Toni Storm and her butler, that girl is Mariah May. And they never give her a chance to wrestle of any note. I mean, the people that you have on this roster, Saraya she'd be the first one out the door for me. Here's who I would take. I would take Taya Valkyrie.
I don't want anything to do with her. I've already seen enough of her. I've seen enough of that train.
She's a good wrestler. She's a good wrestler. Taya Valkyrie.
I haven't seen it.
That's Johnny Nitro's wife.
She I know because I recognize the name, but I've never seen her have a good match in this company. Not once.
Not in that company. Not in that company.
Hold on.
Because
before you go down this list, right?
Go ahead.
Before you go down this list are the people that I've seen have good matches. They might have other women that can wrestle and can go and actually put on a good show. I have not seen it for my own eyes because Tony Khan is a mark-ass booker and doesn't know how to build his roster. He gets a new toy every other month, and then he moves on from the other toys. I don't know if these women else outside of what I named can wrestle. I've seen these other ones. I've seen them wrestle. The ones you're probably about to name, I couldn't pick them out of a lineup, pal.
Okay. But you've heard their names before.
Some of them, yes. Some of them, no.
I'll say this. How many am I allowed to pick?
Well, I'm sure you would pick the ones I called out. Those 5 names.
How many did you pick?
Toni Storm, Statlander, Ruby Soho, Willie, and Britt Baker. That's it. 5.
Okay. I would pick 10 out of this. I wouldn't do Willow or Ruby Soho. I would pick. I'll have to put it that way. Toni Storm would. Thunder Rosa, Taya Valkyrie, okay. Serena Deeb. That's 4. 4 journey women wrestlers who've been all around the world wrestling. And for years. Obviously no Riho. I'm just looking at this lineup right here. Mariah May. That's 5. Maria Kanellis can kiss my ass. What about Nyla Rose? You didn't pick her?
Bro.
I would do Hikaru Shida, who's a great wrestler. That's 6.
I haven't seen it, pal. Haven't seen it.
I would do Athena, Statlander. Yeah. I would pick Athena, Statlander.
Okay, hold on.
And then I would do
Athena, the woman that lands her ass on people's faces like it's going out of style. Like that's her job. When you see her, I've seen her wrestle enough to know
Ember Moon. Sorry, former Ember Moon.
Yes, I know her name for one reason only. When she gets in the ring, somebody's getting a busted nose because that ass is coming down on a face. It's happened every time I've seen her wrestle. Every time. So why would you keep that? No, but it can't be a punching match every time. Look,
the people that they hire are people like to wrestle. Julia Hart, Harley Cameron. No. People who are just... No, I'm just saying these 2 girls are barely trained. All they know how to do is take a back bump. They don't know how to do anything else. And he uses them all the time in the ring. Red Velvet was in the training school. Sky Blue can't get out of her own way. So I got 2 left over. I would pick. I'm doing it again, Don. God damn you. Okay, I would pick Mercedes Moné because she can wrestle. You would never talk on a microphone. You would have a manager. Stokely Hathaway would be your manager, the little bald dude who comes out with Willow. And I would do Abaddon. And I'll tell you why.
God, no.
Abaddon. I would pick Abaddon for the fact that it's a wrestling zombie. I would change up the entire presentation. She would be my female frickin' Undertaker. I would have Luther or somebody, maybe one of the Dark Order come out, shave their head bald, paint them purple, I don't know, whatever, and have them escort her in a coffin to the ring. That's what I would do.
Dear God.
Abaddon.
And I would change the channel immediately. And people can say whatever they want.
Abaddon can go. Go ahead.
They can say whatever they want about women's wrestling. Everybody always tries to deny the statistics when you talk about this shit. It drives me crazy. They try to deny it all the time. The ratings go down. We just looked at them last night. The ratings go down the minute the women hit the ring. It's not just me. It's not a sexist thing. There's just not enough good talent in this AEW show to continue to function this way, in my opinion. The trading is awful. They hurt each other like it's a legit business. Like, we need to do this. We need to hurt each other and punch each other in the face, and you should break your nose. It's just, and there's a cult of wrestling fans, and it's a small one. It's not the average everyday wrestling fan that's watching it. It's a very small, minute clique inside a small clique of wrestling fans. It really is. And here's the problem that I have with it is that most of the guys that claim they like women's wrestling are just watching to see chicks in tight clothes. That's my issue with most of it. And that's why they put it on the TV, because young adolescent men are like, oh, that chick's almost in her underwear. I got to watch this. I got to watch this whole thing. Oh, I got to watch it again. That's what it is.
You know what got me into women's wrestling? I'll tell you right now. It hasn't been for a long time, because I felt the same way you did. And when I watched NXT for the first couple of times, the 4 horsewomen were on there. Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, and Sasha Banks. And the matches they put on with people were just absolutely unbelievable. Go ahead.
What do all 4 of those women have in common that you just said?
They came through the NXT program.
They're all entertaining as hell. They just happened to form a group together. And then they all stood on their own. And you can say whatever you want about Bayley. Like, you can tell she's aging. Her skills are slowly starting to diminish as her body's, changed a little bit over the years. She's not. Look, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying she's matured as a woman.
He used to call me up during SmackDown.
Stop.
Oh my God! Look at Bayley. It's just it's so unfortunate, dude. It's so unfortunate. So what? Look at Bayley. Look at Bayley. Look at that ass. Good Lord, you could show a movie on that. She's got something wrong with her. She can't. It's her thyroid. It's her thyroid.
Oh my Lord, I did not.
She can't work out.
Now you're pulling it. Now you're going into business for yourself.
Not the thyroid, but still, I forgot what you said. She had something wrong with her. Some medical condition.
No, I just said she's becoming a woman. Like, when she first started, she was still a kid, pretty much. She had a kid's build. Now she's a full-blown woman. That's what she is. Women's bodies change a lot in a very short amount of time. That's why gymnasts all do this shit when they're teenagers. They can't do it in their 20s. That's why. What's her name that's about to go off for the Olympics? She's a freak of nature. That chick is Simone Biles is a story on her own. I'll be curious to watch that this summer. Can she actually perform at that age?
She's soft, pal. She's soft. The last Olympics, she had to go home, or whatever it was. She had to go home. She was upset.
This is my issue. There's not enough good women on this show for me as a casual wrestling fan, not somebody that goes, I got to go find this match, and I got to go find this match, and I got to see that match. I'm not going to do that. You got to show it to me on TV. I'm not going out of my way. I watch TV. I give you an hour or two every week on this show. Show me you can do it then, not 3 years ago when you were in Japan doing some crazy shit. You're over here now. Act accordingly. Put on a good show. It's awful. And if I was at AEW, to be quite honest, I'd pull the plug on the whole damn women's division and start over and start getting them in school to train them. I'd have a bunch of valets in the interim while they're going to training school. Shut the whole thing down and start over. It's that bad to me.
You shut that whole company down, start over.
Well,
have it be EWA, Eastern Wrestling Alliance.
I did not
change the lettering around. It's a shit show.
Well, that's
my. You know what wrestling needs, pal? You know what female wrestling needs? I'm going to tell you.
Oh, don't you say it.
Female wrestling needs a female Georgie Animal Steel.
I thought you were going to say it needs a Missy Beefcake.
No. Everyone needs a Missy Beefcake, pal.
Except Hulk Hogan, apparently.
A female Georgie Animal Steel with a hairy back.
Oh!
She comes out and with a crew. I won't say shaved head. I'll just say a crew cut with a pink tongue or a purple tongue. Yeah! Yeah! She could just say that. Yeah!
Yeah, boy!
Yeah, boy. Come out in the
Oh.
black tights with the stripe going down the side. A female George, of course, she would have to wear a top with a hairy chest. A female George Animal Steel. We could be, you know what? If Nyla Rose would change her gimmick, I'm telling you.
Maybe, but she's not gonna because she's stuck on that. And I don't care to watch. Like, that's my take. I got it off my chest. Sometimes when you start talking women's wrestling, pal, my eyes glaze over like a deer in the headlights. I'm just like, oh my God, hit me, car. Hit me, you freaking car. Take me out of this world. Take me home. Johnny Bottles is talking about women again. There's Rhea Ripley and the handful that I named, and the rest of them are nothing but background
She's a handful,
noise.
all right, pal. She's a handful.
Background noise. Anyway.
All right, let's go to something else. Women's wrestling does suck right now.
There's one big topic.
I won't say women's wrestling sucks because of AEW, because the WWE also has some stinker wrestling matches with women.
They need to seriously reevaluate what they're doing.
Candice LeRae, anything those two are involved in. It used to be Dana Brooke for me, and fortunately, the Dana Brooke experiment expired when Kevin Dunn left because that was his girl.
The chat's killing me. Oh, God.
I'm fed up with this world. I can't take it anymore.
Anyway, look. There was something big that happened today. The Rock has got his fingers on the pulse of wrestling right now. And I sent you the clip. I said, Bottles, I don't care what you do before we do this show today. You've got to see this clip. And if you haven't seen it, it's actually on his Instagram feed. It's not anywhere else. And would you please?
I'm looking at it right now. Pal, I'm looking at it right now on Twitter.
Yeah, it's everywhere now. Like it came off of his Instagram feed. That's where it came from.
Right.
And one Dave Meltzer said that he went into business for himself. Is that what you read earlier?
The Rock went off script, defied producers' orders, and shoot attacked Cody Rhodes after Raw went off the air. That's what Dave Mumbles Meltzer said. Renowned wrestling analyst.
We said this last night. It felt like an old Southern wrestling angle. I said it last night. It felt like a Memphis, Mid-South, Crockett type moment. And if you haven't seen the clip, go out of your ways and find this after the show. It is absolutely one of the best pieces of work you're going to see. The producer of the show yells, and we're clear. And The Rock begins to go slam off on the producer. I don't give a F. You think this shit's over? This shit ain't over. And begins to whip Cody with the weight belt and gets another handful of blood and wipes it on it again while he's cussing everybody that's there. It was tremendous, and it reminded me of one thing, right? When I saw it, the first thing I thought of was Tony Khan should take notes on this because he's forever letting his wrestlers get on air and cuss and say God knows what on the air and say God knows what the F-bombs, the S-bombs that were coming out that they got in trouble for, that they got smacked on the head for. There's a time and a place you can do this to get your guys over.
Right.
The Rock is literally taking them to school on how to do this. You don't do it on the air when you can get fined by the SEC. You do it on a social media platform. You do it that way, and you have somebody else freaking film it. It was perfect the way that they did this. Absolutely a moment of gold in wrestling. I feel like I'm going back to the old days where it actually meant something. This felt like it's a real personal issue now to me with The Rock and Cody Rhodes. What did you think of it?
I thought it was fantastic. I really did. It wasn't what Meltzer said it was. It was a continuation of what went on in the parking lot, if you saw Raw. And it was an old school Memphis or old school NWA Crockett beatdown in the parking lot. Except there were a lot of, like you said, there was a lot of profanities thrown in. So,
but you can do that, though. That's why it was so brilliant.
Yes.
So what?
I don't know whether to play this thing or not.
I'm afraid we're going to get in trouble if we do because of the profanities coming out of this thing.
Yes. Well,
but trust us, it's worth watching. Go check it out.
If you haven't seen it, there's an account, capital I, this is on Twitter, at capital I, lowercase m, capital B, lowercase a, THORY. And that's the account that I am looking at the video right now through. So I am Bathory. I'm Bathory is the account's name.
I don't take bath regular. What?
Probably. I'm
Okay.
Bathory, it says.
Okay. Speaking of batshit crazy, we watched Dark Side of the Ring this week. It was
Dark
something,
Side of the Ring was fantastic.
It was something that Johnny Bottles has been gnawing on his arm about since he watched. How many times have you watched it now, Bottles? 3?
Almost 3. 2.5.
Two
And
and a
I'll
half.
finish the other half when we get off the air.
About a year ago, we got into a pissing contest with Miss Missy Beefcake because of some comments that were said. And this goes back to the Marty Jannetty episode where they were all over that episode for whatever reason. And she's sitting there with her 70-year-old Hooters hanging out, just looking like she wants to still be 18. And it wasn't a good look, in my opinion, for a woman of her age to take an outfit like that and go on air with something like that. Right? Am I wrong
Absolutely.
in that assessment?
You're not wrong at all, pal. You're not wrong at all.
Johnny went, here he goes. Go ahead, Johnny.
The saddlebags are out, pal. The leathery saddlebags are out. I felt like I was watching an episode of Rawhide when she was speaking on the air. Like I said, if you ever go into Safeway and you go over to the deli case and you're picking out your what deli meat you want, and there's like 2 big loaves of bologna laying there next to the cubed ham and next to the olive loaf, and you're thinking, do I go with the olive loaf or do I go with the 2? What are those bolognas? Are both those bolognas the same? Oh, they are? Okay. Can I have both bolognas?
And stick an olive in the end.
Stick an olive in the end, pal. That's me right there. Put an olive in the end.
So we made some comments about the show last year, and she immediately came after us. So game on now, I guess, as they say. I watched this episode on Brutus Beefcake. You watched it more times than I did. I was surprised. Did you get the Linda McMahon part this time? The second time you watched it?
Yes, I was looking for that, and I saw that. They mentioned it so quickly, and it was over and done. It was gone.
Yeah, giving her no credit. Like, they didn't want to give her any credit for this. So look, there's no other way around this. Brutus, the freaking Barber Beefcake, has a job in this industry because of one man. One guy is why he was in this entire business. Hulk Hogan was his best friend. Wherever Hogan went, Brutus Beefcake soon followed. And there was a time where Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine were a tag team, and a damn good one, and an entertaining one, when he was just Brutus Beefcake. That's when I was first really starting to watch WWF as it was back then.
And he wasn't a barber.
No,
he wasn't a barber when he teamed with Valentine.
It was tremendous stuff. Look, I don't give a shit what you say. I'm going to believe anything Greg the Hammer Valentine says or does in that ring. That dude legit looks like he would eat a freaking pack of cigarettes and have no problem doing it. Like,
and then beat you up.
Yeah, just while he's chewing the cigarettes. It's like he doesn't even smoke them. He just eats the damn thing. Like
he looks like that now. Although he looks kind of grandmotherly. He looks like somebody's grandmother who ate a pack of unfiltered Marlboros and then kicked the shit out of him.
It is.
In the box.
It is. In the box.
The box.
It was
I'll sock you right in the box.
So this whole story comes down. They talk about how Brutus Beefcake, he becomes Brutus the Barber after Linda McMahon comes up with the gimmick that he should become a barber. And he gets the news and he goes crazy and he gets all upset about it. And then he's like, I'm going to quit the business. And Terry Bollea says, hey, pal, what if you get a pair of scissors and cut these people's hair off when you finish having a match? It's going to get over. And guess what? It got over with the kids back then. I was never a fan of that, but it got over. So he is going about his business. He wrestled in the WWE a long time, like a super long time.
He did.
Like I want to say 6-7 years straight before the accident, which they got into great detail on.
He had 2 gimmicks.
Yeah, he had 2 gimmicks. The same guy had 2 gimmicks, which is unheard of. During his first run, they changed his gimmick. Like, that's nuts to me. Oops. Anyway, it keeps going on. And then the parasailing accident is what everybody wants to hear about. Everybody's heard about this forever. This was the first time I heard about this from his perspective and from people's perspective that were actually at the party. All I'd ever heard was that he caught a knee in the face from a parasailing accident. Turns out
4th of July. 4th of July, they were all celebrating. B. Brian Blair and him were in the same boat with some, bikini girls, and one was parasailing. That was Brutus's girlfriend or wife at the time, and caught. I had heard 2 knees, Don, 2 knees to the face.
Yes. Yeah.
But supposedly it was only one right between his eyes.
But here's the thing that I didn't know. He was the dumbass that was doing the parasailing that day. That was his group doing the parasailing. So apparently, Brian Blair arrives. Oh my God, the dude arrives late. His girlfriend wants to go on the parasail. They say no. They finally talk him into it. He gets on, she gets on. The guy that's running the boat gets tired of waiting, throttle down. He catches knees in the face, separates his upper jaw from his entire skull. It's a complete catastrophe. It's a hot
broken
mess.
Broken eye sockets, broken nose, shattered nose. His upper jaw collapsed and fell down on his lower jaw, and he couldn't speak. It was blah, blah, blah. Blood was pouring out of every hole in his head.
Have to rush him. It's insane to think about and disgusting to hear. Like, it's crazy and disgusting at the same time to hear the story. Anyway, long story short, rush him to the hospital. The doctor has to come in there, literally put his face back together. He and Hogan are walking down. Hogan has to come out so that he doesn't.
Hang on a second.
I'm going to get to
the
that.
funny part about the doctor's
That's what we get
son.
to. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Okay. The doctor's son. So
the
doctor's
son.
Yeah, the doctor's told, hey, we've got Brutus the Barber Beefcake here. His face has been smashed. You need to get here right away. Doctor says, who the hell's Brutus the Barber Beefcake? And his son goes, that's Hulk Hogan's friend. That's the wrestler. That's how he got there so fast. He had no idea. Anyway, Hogan gets flown out there from California to stay with him because they're like, look, if he wakes up from this thing and he freaks out because his face is a mess, we might have a problem. Like, he could really do some damage. So Hogan comes out. He sits with him. Who says Hogan's not a friend? That's all I can say. They're walking down the hospital. They make a turn, and he makes a movement with his face, and his eyeball falls out of his head.
Popped out like Vader's did in Japan.
Fell out of his head. Hogan's freaking out. They got to rush him back. Anyway, they get the eye put back in. He comes back in. He has Brutus the Barber Beefcake shop. He eventually gets fired from the WWE because he can't really go like he used to, and he ends up working at a train station collecting tolls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for those of you that don't know, this was not the smartest man to ever live. And he left his cocaine in the train station and caused an anthrax scare. Let me repeat that. In the toll booth. He left his cocaine in the toll booth and caused an anthrax scare.
There was an envelope laying on the floor, and a girl came in who was relieving him of his duty. She was next to him shift, and she picked it up. Okay.
Did you just say she was relieving him of his duty?
Relieving him? Yes. She was relieving him of his duty. Duty. Not duty. Duty.
I got it. That just caught me off guard with where you've been tonight.
You got that Vince McMahon mindset going on right now.
No! Beer Man has ruined me.
Anyway, she picked up this envelope, Don, and there was filled with white powder, and she tore it open, and it went up into the air, and, like you said, anthrax. Now, Missy Beefcake and Brutus Beefcake swear up and down that was BC headache powder. And
then Greg said, do you want the truth or you want me to lie? It was cocaine. Let's be real. It was coke.
Because BC headache powder has the logo on the little envelope.
Yes.
It's a powder you mix with water, or as Don did back in the service, poured it underneath his tongue.
Yes. When you had to. I mean, you just straight to the dome, buddy. You get it in there. Anyway, let's get to the end of this because we've dwelled on it long enough. He ends up with his lifelong sweetheart. He introduces her to Hogan, and apparently they had a good, cordial relationship, and they were getting along until the next day. So something happened. They won't talk about it. They won't come clean about it. Of course, Hogan's never going to come clean. And here's what got me about this episode, bro. It was, oh, my poor husband. He loves Hogan so much. I feel so bad for him. I get why people Yeah, I get why people despise this woman now, because a year ago, this was the same hoe that was saying, I've got dirt on you, Hogan. You better talk to him or I'm going to release the dirt on you. Here we are 8 months later and she's pulling this shit. I get why nobody likes this chick now. I can just tell already she's a horrible person. She's two-faced and she's pulled the wool over this guy's eyes. It's sad to see a friendship like that end.
There's a video of Greg the Hammer Valentine in a bar having
Yes.
some cocktails with a table full of ladies. His wife's there, and they asked him what he thought of Missy Beefcake. And basically he said, she's see you in Toledo, if you know what I'm saying.
She's a tunt.
And,
She's a freaking tunt.
Then he said, where's that guy? With my drink? Meaning a bag, a bundle of sticks. We don't want to say that word on YouTube.
Yeah.
A bundle of sticks, if you know what that means over in Great Britain.
So that's the episode. Johnny Bottles enjoyed it. He watched it a million times. He's a big fan. He's probably going to keep that.
Dude, I can't wait until they do the Greg the Hammer Valentine story.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. That's going to be
tremendous.
Can't
wait for that. I don't know what kind of bad thing he had that was dark on the dark side of the ring. You never really heard about anything like that with Valentine. It was epic. And Missy Beefcake, she's just insinuated herself into Brutus's social circle. And Brian Knobbs, they dug up Brian Knobbs out of the ground and brought him out. He looks like $100. And they asked him, they said, well, what happened there? Well, I told her, you're not in the group until Hogan says you're in the group.
Yep. You're not in the group till Hogan says, lady. And she apparently got too big for her britches, is what would be my guess.
She did.
Anyway, that was that show.
And Brutus wasn't in the group anymore after that either. But Brutus, I call him Brutus Beefneck now because he's got some sort of weird thing going on with his neck. If you ask him a question, he'll go, and he's doing a lot of this, like looking up at the camera, turning his head like Batman, like Michael Keaton did in Batman 1989. That's how Brutus was moving his head around the whole thing. They showed him at a wrestling convention. He's got his merch table there, and he's like looking up at people like this. And
you know what the best part of that was? They showed that dumbass on a motorcycle. I was like, yeah, that's real safe. I'm sure that's going to go over well later. This dude,
Good Lord Almighty.
I mean, can you imagine? Anyway, I don't want to dwell on this too long. I want to get to the Davey Boy Smith. I know you're not a big fan of his, so I'm not going to take up much of your time. But there was a couple of parts about this where I've always sort of been a Bret Hart believer in what he said. I've bought a lot of the hype in what he said. This was a fluff piece by the WWE in every regard when it comes to Davey Boy Smith. This was them really muddying up the waters. And there was a point on here that really caught my attention where for a minute I was like, hey, man, are you shitting me right now? Like, freaking Bret Hart, are you kidding me after what you wrote in your book? In the show, if you remember, he said, I'm super proud of that SummerSlam match. It was really good. We had a hell of a match. And later in the episode, he says he got hooked on painkillers. It was the painkillers. It was legal medication he got hooked on. In Bret Hart's own book, he said, Davey Boy told me when we got in the ring, I forgot the whole match. I was up smoking crack with Jim the Anvil Neidhart all night.
Right. And they left out some other things, too. You know how I hurt his back? Do you know?
Getting slammed on the door.
Getting slammed on a trap door that the Warrior was going to come out of in that era of WCW.
That he was told about because I've read the Eric Bischoff book about that. Everyone was told about that before they entered the ring. To this day, Eric Bischoff is convinced he was looking to get paid because of that.
No, but he was slammed. He was slammed on the door. So the guy who slammed him is at fault, not him. Unless he said, slam me on the door, mate.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's convinced to this day that he did that. He really did. So there was something else you wanted to talk about last night. I don't want to dwell on this story because they painted this in such a ridiculous picture. And there was one thing that caught my attention. Clearly, Davey Boy Smith was a fan, was a star in England like I didn't know. Even William Regal said, I am wrestling because of Davey Boy Smith. He is the biggest wrestling star that has ever or will ever come out of England. He was that over in England, and I had no idea. So what did you read about old Davey Boy?
This is from Diana Hart Smith's
Oh boy, hold on to your
book.
hats, kids.
The book called Under the Mat. And
Oh.
I talked to Don about this biography is portraying Davey Boy Smith as a good-natured, fun-loving, man about town pill addict who everyone loved.
Crackhead
Who everyone loved. They left out the crack. They left out the WCW door slam, trap door
What else
slam.
did they leave out?
They left out what was it, Under the Mat. Diana Hart Smith is in this biography a lot on camera. She's his ex-wife, so of course she's going to be there. In her 2001 book, chapter 25, page 89, Davey told me a Florida wrestler named Duke the Dumpster Rousey figured out how to make GHB liquid.
Yes,
Davey
he was big on that.
So was Heenan.
Yeah.
Famous story, Heenan got thrown off a plane and he got banned from an airline because he passed out. Take a GHB because he wanted to get to sleep. Rick Rude gave it to him. Rick Rude was a big GHB guy, and supposedly he OD'd on GHB. That's how Rick Rude died.
I've heard that as well.
Yes.
I've heard that.
Duke the Dumpster Rousey figured out how to make GHB. Davey began giving it to me without my knowledge. At the time, all I knew was that unusual things were happening to me. I developed really bad hemorrhoids and woke up with my posterior burning and sore. I felt something had happened to me during the night, but I couldn't understand what I thought. Maybe I was losing my mind even. Part of being married is being able to trust the person you're married to. I never dreamed Davey would be slipping me this drug and my nightly glass of orange juice in order to violate me. It just never occurred to me. I shared my symptoms with my sister Ellie. Without batting an eye, she said, yeah, Jim Neidhart, who she's married to, used to do the same thing to me. I bit my lip. After taking the orange juice Davey gives me at night, I'll wake up in my bed and not remember how I got there. He was at the point where the only way he wanted to be with me was if I were unconscious. I guess in a really weird up way, I felt flattered that he desired me. I rationalized that he still loved me. What a screwed up relationship. NFS, honey. NFS.
Dude.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, that's beyond the pale. That's just beyond the pale. I've got no words to describe this, and there's one other part about this before we move on, because it's getting close to the witching hour. There's a big surprise tonight if people don't know.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes left. Barely.
Jade Cargill.
By the way, some people, hang on a second. By the way, some people yesterday, when we went off the air, are they gone? Is it over? They put in the chat. And yeah, we're good for an hour. We could do an hour, maybe a few minutes over, and then we got to go.
Well, we try to keep it at an hour because that's about what a good show should be. If you're going to do a couple of weeks, I'm not trying to drone on about every little minutia detail in this world of the wrestling industry. Like,
right.
I want to talk
like
about
a 3-hour show that just happened. Like a 3-hour show that just happened.
Stop it.
Go ahead.
Anyway, the whole thing with Dave, the other part about that show that really got to me was, if they're painting him in this light, why would they show him all drugged up? And why was Deanna Hart filming him like that? Dude, that felt like the worst. That felt so dirty to me that they filmed this poor bastard who's clearly hooked on something and then put it in this program. It was horrendous, man. Everything about it was horrible. Horrible, dude. So anyway, that was that show. I can't wait. Mm-hmm. SmackDown's coming on here shortly. Johnny Bottles, Jade Cargill is going to be on the show tonight. She's coming out.
Will she have a match?
No, not a chance.
You don't think so?
You're not going to have a match on SmackDown with one of the biggest names you've made in the past 6 months on a SmackDown free TV show. She might have a match at Mania. She might be announced for a match at Mania, but she's not going to wrestle tonight. Would you put her in a match tonight?
If it was someone who I could guarantee would be a very, very safe worker and has a history of being a safe worker.
God,
someone who can work, but also is a jobber. That's what I would do. But I think she's going to come out and do a little piece of business, and she's going to team up with Bianca Belair. They're going to put that match together. Bianca Belair and Naomi versus Damage Control at WrestleMania.
Sounds like I think that'd be pretty good. I think you might actually get a good match out of that. That might be a women's match. I'll pay attention to it and enjoy it.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that. There's a couple of quick notes I want to get over real quick before we get out of here. There is a health update on Kenny Omega. Meltzer reported Omega has gone through but I hate saying Meltzer's reported. He's gone through ups and downs over the last few months and said his condition is causing him pain. Doctors have recommended surgery for Omega. If you have diverticulitis, is there any other way to get over this other than surgery? Because I've had two friends get it, and they had to both go into emergency surgery. Like, this isn't something you can jerk around with. So something about this isn't adding up with me, Johnny. Something about this doesn't sound right from a medical standpoint. We know Brock Lesnar had it, lost like 60 pounds and had to have emergency surgery. Is Kenny Omega a god? What the hell's going on? This smells like bullshit.
It does smell like bullshit. You can have diverticulitis and not have to get surgery if there's no perforations of your intestines or your colon. It's just the rotten food just stays in pockets in the lining of your intestines. And they go in and they swab it out somehow.
Okay. And I've never heard of it. And I've heard, Larry just said his brother had it and that was the same way. However, I'm probably a little bit more skeptical because of how we saw him the last time he was on TV, where he looked.
How long has it been?
Oh, God. 6 months?
2 months?
No, it was November, right? Was it November, October, somewhere in there?
Right. And now, if he had perforations in his colon and his intestine, bacteria is going into his system. Wouldn't he have had surgery by now?
That's sort of what I was thinking, because he had to go in the ER. They said he was in so much pain. Like, that's what they said. He had to go in for pain. But here's why I'm real skeptical upon this before we get out of here.
Go ahead.
The last night that we saw him, you and I commented the next day before he even went in the hospital, I believe. He didn't look right. Like, he looked like he was high as hell. Like, he was he was on something. He was
hair
on
messed up.
something. Yeah. Looked like he just rolled up out of a ditch.
Yes, he looked like a homeless man walked into the ring. Now if you've seen Dark Order come out, we're the best friends. Yes, you can say, hey, they look like homeless men. Hey, 4 homeless men just got in the ring. So where's the cops? But yeah, he looked terrible. He looked horrible. I think there's something more going on. I think this is a cover story because the AEW publicity agent, Dave Mumbles Meltzer, is putting a story out there. So
right, no one else is getting a piece of this pie. No one else is.
What if a guy had a pill addiction and an alcohol problem, or just a pill addiction? He went into rehab. Then he came out of rehab. And then he had to go back into rehab because he relapsed right away. Maybe that's possible if that was such a thing that happened to somebody.
And I hate to
mention any names.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but it just this whole thing doesn't sit right with me, to be quite honest. It just doesn't.
No.
I hope he doesn't have an addiction problem. But after that night and the way he looked in the ring and he wasn't coherent, I've got questions about it, man. Like I do. And the fact that AEW never gives you an update on wrestlers when they're injured does not help the cause at all. It doesn't help.
You're right.
So
you're right.
That's my last bit of business tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate the donations very much, Larry. We really appreciate it, man.
And Scud.
Scott, I was going to say,
Larry
Scud, you've also been, guys have been great. We really appreciate it.
Fantastic stuff.
Every little bit helps. So we really appreciate it. And again, thank you, Mike Digital, for the music.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys. And look, we're trying to get to 550.
That's the next
by this time next week. That's our goal. Trying to get to 550 if we can. Please like and subscribe. If you subscribe, just turn the notifications off. We're not gonna bother the hell out of you. We put 2 videos out a week. That's all. Thursdays and Fridays. For right now. Until something changes.
Take us home, Johnny. I'm ready to watch SmackDown.
I got one more small story. It's real quick. There's a young guy who just got signed to NXT.
Not this shit.
Did you know Kurt Angle, who's on a Legends deal with WWE? That guy, Kurt Angle, is also a talent scout. He goes out to trials, colleges, things like that, and strongest man contest and everything. And he presents to the company who he thinks is going to be an up and comer.
I guarantee you, he didn't pick this. He did not pick this. Guaranteed.
Well, they signed this young kid from Quahog, Rhode Island. Yeah. Peter Griffin, I think his name is. They just signed him. There's Kurt with him at NXT.
Oh, shit.
He just introduced him to Matt Bloom and Shawn Michaels, and they expect big things from Big Pete Griffin.
Larry, you're a dick.
No?
No. Take us home.
No?
It's time to go watch SmackDown. Enjoy your wrestling, everybody.
Exactly. Hang on a second. I'm looking for that guy. Just I know a guy who would not enjoy SmackDown.
Oh, please. Yes, he would. He'd love it.
He was in a foul mood, pal.